What's going on, guys? Today we're going to talk about the 5 things I think you should know before talking to a military recruiter. Now, something to remember when you're thinking about this is that it is kind of a pick your own adventure, and you should come at this with an open mind, regardless of what direction you're thinking of going. And if you're here just to explore, you're here to learn a little bit more, thanks for showing up. Let's get started. Your options are the first thing that I think you need to know when it comes to joining the military. And when you think about options, you've got to understand that the government itself, the military, has so many different opportunities and so many different jobs. Like just the Army itself has 200 plus different jobs that you can take. And being aware of that, being aware that you have that depth and breadth of options is really important when you're starting to consider this. And that's just one branch of the military. That is just the Army. So when you're thinking about your options, I think it's good if we break it down into each of the different branches and we talk about what the other options are as far as like part-time National Guard and Reserve type stuff. So you can walk in with a better understanding and an idea of what you might actually want to do. Now, there is an additional option where if you wanted to become, say, an Army officer or a Marine Corps officer or a Space Force officer, whatever, you could try to go the route of becoming an officer, which requires a college degree. And I'll make a future video on that, discussing the different options and opportunities that come with each branch. But for now, we're just going to focus on the general enlistment process or just joining the military itself. So when it comes to your options, you've got the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Space Force, and last but not least, the Coast Guard. So what does that actually mean? It means that each of those different branches has some kind of specialty or something that they do that is particular to their mission set, to their job, to their design. Let's take, for example, the Army. The Army is meant to take and hold land. So you've got a lot of land-focused things that the Army does. We don't have a lot of boats in the Army. So in the Army, you've got options and opportunities that span the whole gambit of jobs, everything from human resource management, HR or S1 or something that you might hear it referred to as something like that. But think of it as like HR administration, all the way up to like an infantry guy, the guy who's actually got the guns, or artillery, the guys who are shooting shells over the heads of everybody else. The Army focuses on taking and keeping land. So everything that they're doing is basically focused on that. Granted, they do have aircraft and helicopters, but how are you going to get to the land that you're trying to take if you don't have helicopters and aircraft? So next you've got a specialty branch, which is the Navy. And it's hard to think of the Navy as we've heard of it as a specialty branch, but they are. They focus on the water. They focus on the oceans. That's their job. So a lot of the jobs and opportunities in the Navy are going to focus on ships, boats, stuff like that. The Navy is known for being very technical and self-sufficient in its training of its personnel because they're going to be out on a boat. It's really hard to get a replacement part all the way out in the middle of the ocean. So they take a lot of pride and they take a lot of time to train their individuals to be very good at their technical jobs. And in the Navy, there are a lot of jobs that revolve around the ship, but you also have things like their aircraft carriers. So you've got helicopters and you've got jets, go Top Gun, right? So you've got like jet maintenance, airplane maintenance, airfield maintenance, airfield running. You've got, of course, the Navy SEALs. You've got all these different opportunities and options that are within the Navy, but their specialty is water. So that brings us to our next one, which is the Marine Corps. Now, the Marine Corps is its own animal. It is lean, it is small, and they are there to do what's called amphibious assaults. So everything that they do revolves around getting people from a boat onto a beach, taking said beach, making a beachhead, and then passing over control once it's under control to another force, typically the Army. And the Marine Corps is really interesting because they have the same depth and breadth of jobs, but they have fewer of them. So people are a lot more experienced. They're a lot more specialized in doing things the Marine Corps way. And if this is something that really excites you, the Marine Corps also has the most esprit de corps out of any of the branches. If you walk into a room, you will know if someone's a Marine because they will tell you that they're a Marine. Once you become a Marine, once you've earned the right to call yourself a Marine, you're a Marine for the rest of your life. That's kind of their jam. So now we get into our next one, which is the Air Force. Now, the Air Force is, as it sounds like, focused on the air. They deal with jets, aircraft, running airfields, running airstrips. So if you're thinking that you'd want to get into something like aviation maintenance or management, this might be an opportunity for you and to look into is to go into the Air Force. If you like the idea of working on an airfield, working with aircraft, flying around a lot, like this may be an opportunity for you to look into, and that is their primary focus. The next one is the Space Force. Gonna be honest, nobody knows exactly what the Space Force does just yet. But that in and of itself is an opportunity. That's an option. If you want to get in at the bottom floor of something and learn how it works and make it work and be the person that knows how this thing started, like the Space Force might be for you. And they're doing something that is really interesting and cutting edge. I'm sure somewhere they are doing that. And it could be a really cool opportunity to get in at the ground floor of something new and something interesting. And last, you've got the Coast Guard. Now, the Coast Guard focuses on things like maritime security. They patrol our coastal waters, the United States coastal waters. You get into things like law enforcement. You get into things like interdicting drug vessel or smuggling vessels that are trying to bring drugs into the U.S. So a lot of maritime law enforcement. But you also have an interesting mission that involves like customs. You do inspections on ships coming into the US. And you also have a really cool mission when it comes to like search and rescue. Say a vessel calls a distress call and you are part of the Coast Guard. Well, it is likely that if you are in the Coast Guard and you are on a boat or you are part of a flight crew, you may be flying out there or boating out there to save those people that may be in a maritime emergency. It's a very cool gig. Like, not knocking it, definitely worth a look if it's something that interests you. Now, the next part of this is determining and knowing what options you have as far as full time or part time. Each of these components has a full time option. Like, that is what we all know. Like, if you join the military, you are full time. But there are also two other entities that you can join that you should be aware of. One is the reserves. The reserves are what you've typically heard of, which is like the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. And what separates the reserves from something like the National Guard, which is our next option, is where the funding comes from. The reserves are federally funded, so they're just like the other branches. They're just like the other services, like the full-time services. They're federally funded. So that means that you're following like a similar promotion track. If you get called up for something, it's typically going to be large scale. It's going to be involved something that the U.S. government is involved in. Now, the National Guard also has those responsibilities, but the difference is where the funding comes from. The National Guard is funded by the state that it's in. So you have something like the Illinois National Guard. That is the National Guard funded by Illinois. And both of these, the Reserve and National Guard, allow you to stay in the state that you are in, if that's what you want to do. But with the reserves, you have the opportunity to move a lot more freely to another reserve unit. If, say, you move for your regular job, the National Guard is a little bit harder because you are part of the Illinois National Guard or you're part of the California National Guard. You can still transfer, you can still transition. It's just a little bit more complicated. But if that's something that interests you, both are great options. And if that's the route that you want to go, I highly recommend looking into it with the full understanding that you are still going to have to do the initial entry things to join the military that the active component is going to do. So you're still going to have to go to basic training and boot camp. You're still going to have to go to your advanced individual training. You're still going to have to earn your military occupational specialty, your MOS. It's not like they just hire you and you show up and it's like on the job training. Like you're going to learn how to be, a supply guy. Like it's not like that. You're still going to go to the school. You're still going to have that upfront time investment. But then after that, you're going to do it 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. And it'll kind of be your side hustle for a while. Now, the second thing that I think you should be aware of, and before talking to a recruiter, is you need to know what you want to do. And this sounds weird, but I want you to think about it in this way. I want you to think about the field that you want to get into in the future. Say you want to get into human resources. Well, there are jobs across each of the different branches that can get you into human resources. So you can get that experience and you can get that on the job experience. You can learn how those kind of processes work. You can actually sit in that field for a little while, and then later on you can step out and know that you have experience doing it. If you want to be a mechanic, you can go and you can learn how to be a mechanic. You can be a vehicle mechanic, a tank mechanic. You can be an aircraft mechanic. You can be a lot of different types of mechanic. You just got to know what field you want to get into and start angling for it from the beginning. Now, the next thing that you should think about is, what experience do you want to gain? And this sounds a lot like, the field that you want to get into, but this is a different kind of experience. What kind of experience you want to gain in this context means, what do you want to do? Right? Like, do you want to travel to different countries? Do you want to jump out of airplanes? Do you want to meet people from different cultures? Like, is that your jam? Is that the experience that you want to have? Really, really think about that. Think about what you want to get out of this investment of time, and really think about the experience that you want to gain, the stories that you want to gain, the things that you want to do that you're going to carry with you. And the last one in this particular part that I want you to think about is, where do you want to go? Now, this is sounds similar to like what experience you want to gain, but where do you want to go? Do you want to stay in the continental United States? Like, is that where you physically want to be? Or do you want to go to like Korea or Europe or to Alaska? Do you want to go to Hawaii? Do you want to go to Japan? Like, where do you physically want to be? And if you want to stay close to home, there are options for that. If you want to travel as far abroad as possible, there are also options for that. It's just knowing it before you walk in, that is an option, that is something that you can advocate for, is really important before you step into a recruiter's office. The third thing that I want you to really know and really think about and really consider before talking to a recruiter is, how long do you actually want to invest in this thing? How long do you want to be in it? Because each of the different branches has different lengths of contract that you can sign up for. And it's really important that you know that, because it seems really intimidating and really daunting when you think like, oh man, like I'm going to have to give like 6 years to this or 8 years to this. It's not like that. Each of the different branches has anything ranging from a 3-year contract to a 6-year contract. You can do 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and that's your contract length. You can negotiate that. You have the opportunity to angle yourself towards jobs that, say, have a 3-year contract obligation. Like, you can do that. You also have the opportunity to take a 6-year contract for a different job that may have more technical training. And, these are things that you can do, and you should really know about and really consider. And you should really think about how much you want to invest in this, because you're offering your most important thing, which is your time. You're offering your time to gain experience, to learn something, to have options and opportunities for whatever you're trying to get out of it. Like, you are investing in this, and it's important that you know why you're investing in it and how long you want to invest in it. And another reason that I think that that's important is, things things are going to be hard. Like, you're going to experience hard things. There's no way around that. I can't sugarcoat it. I can't tell you, no, it's going to be sunshine and rainbows, because it's not. It's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. But on the flip side of that, on the other side of it, you're going to experience so many different cool things. You're going to get to travel. You're going to get to learn things. You're going to get to meet people. You might get to find your purpose. You might find a passion. You might find your best friend. You might find a whole world of things that you didn't know existed. So you're going to find cool things. And I'm not going to lie to you, there are going to be hard points. It is just the nature of the beast. But there are hard things in anything that you do. There are long nights. there are hard places to be in any profession that you take. So I think take that with a grain of salt. It just seems really amplified when you attach military to it. Now, the fourth thing that I want you to know before even walking into a recruiter's office is that it's going to take like 30 to 60 days to actually get into the military. So this isn't something where you just like walk in and you're like, hey, I want in. And the next day they're like, cool, they ship you off. It's not like the movies. It's not like that anymore. You're going to have to do some things before you can actually join. And those things include a lot of paperwork. You're going to do a lot of paperwork because you're signing a contract. It just is what it is. Like, you're going to do a lot of paperwork. The next thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to do a physical. You're going to have to do a really in-depth medical background to talk about like your medical history. Like, the military needs to know that you're healthy and needs to know of any issues that you might have had so they can better take care of you, or they can tell you that like maybe this isn't for you. The next thing is you're going to have to take the ASVAB. A lot of folks took the ASVAB during high school. They may have taken it out of, on a whim just to get out of a class or something, but you're going to have to take the ASVAB. And when you think about taking the ASVAB, don't get too shook up about it. Don't get too worried about it. It is just a test to measure which jobs you are most propensed to perform well in. That's all it really is. But it's a good idea to take some time to study. And that's what kind of adds some time to this 30, 60 days is that my advice is definitely to take some time into study. Like, go back and relearn, like, what is algebra? Like, that's a good thing to know walking into this thing. Like, how do you do math? Because it's part of that investment, part of that time investment. Like, you want to make sure that you put forward your best, your best foot is forward when you're going in and you're trying to do this thing. And in this is another one of those places where it's going to be kind of a hard truth. If you are walking in and you are overweight, and not just like a little overweight, but you are overweight, you're going to be told that you don't meet what's called body composition requirements. That is not an all stop. That does not mean you are disqualified from military service. I want you to know that right up front. Because if you are motivated and you want this, if you want to be on the team wants you. And what's even better is that the recruiters are there to help. Legitimately, they are there to help, and they will offer you as much assistance as time allows and opportunity allows to make sure that you can join the team. Because if you show motivation and you want to be there, I will take somebody who had to work off a little bit of weight and really wanted to be there over somebody who just walked in off the street and was able to do it and, just kind of about it. I will take the person that wanted to be there every day of the week because I want that person on my team. They will try, and they have proven that they will try. And that's what I think anyone in the military wants, is someone who wants to be there. So be aware of that. Don't let it stop you from going to talk to a recruiter. As a matter of fact, maybe use that as motivation to go talk to one. Like, this could be your opportunity for change. It could be your opportunity to transform, to do the hard thing. Like, take a leap. It's honestly worth it. It's a good opportunity. It's a good chance. And the last thing that I want you to walk away with knowing is that you need to know why you're doing this. You genuinely need to know why you're doing this. For some folks, their whole motivation for doing this is like they want to go to debt-free college. They want the GI Bill. They want, the ability to use the yellow ribbon programs to go to the best school that they can possibly afford. And they want to do it debt-free. Like, cool. That is your motivation. Like, I understand. Some people want to do it for the experience. Like, they want the experience and they want the story. They want the stories that come with it. Like, they are chasing the experience. Some people are doing this as an escape from a situation. They're doing it to break through whatever barrier they have to build a better life, to find opportunities to do something bigger and better with their life than what they're around right now. Like, that is totally great. That's amazing. Go after it. Some people, this is the opportunity that they've been looking for, to learn something new, to get into the field that they want. Like, this is just legit the opportunity, the way that they have found to get into the field they want. For some folks, they're bored. Like, every day's a grind, doing the same thing over and over and over again. There's no purpose in it. There's no community. There's no connection in it. It's just doing the same daily grind. And they're bored. So they want to find their purpose. They want to find their passion. They want to find that community. So they're doing this. They want to do this because they're bored with how their life is going. They want to try something new. Totally cool. Totally get it. Another group of folks is the adventurers, the straight up adventure seekers. They want to jump out of planes. They want to go to the foreign places. They want to eat the weird food. They want to do everything involved with the adventure. That's their jam. That's their thing. That's their why. So I encourage you to think about why you're doing this and what motivates you to do it. Like, hang on to that. And any reason why is genuinely all right. As long as you're aware of it, you embrace it, and you use that as an opportunity or as the thing that helps you chase after it. Today, we talked about the 5 things that I think you should know before talking to a recruiter. In the future, I'm going to make a video about the paths to becoming a military officer, which requires a high school or a college degree. And I'll link that down in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, share, and tell your friends about the opportunities that the military has and where you heard about them from. And something that I want you guys to all remember is that, hey man, experiences will vary. Have a good one.